Well, greetings again, everyone. I'm just so glad to be back with you, sharing another devotional video. And had a really interesting topic when the Lord came and presented this concept to me. And I had to admit, even I'm guilty of this sometimes. Have you ever seen something happen, whether it's on the news, it's out around about your normal life and doings, and you're like, you know, I'm sure glad that wasn't me. I'm sure glad that I no longer have kids in a public school. I'm sure glad that I don't have to deal with that at my age. For a Christian, this concept is a very, very toxic one for us to have. As I entitled this message, It's Not at My End, inspired by the best imagery that I ever saw of it, where there was four guys out enjoying a day on the lake. That'll resonate around here because Lake Livingston for our area is a big, hey, it's the weekend, let's go out and go boating, go fishing, whatever. Four guys are in their boat. Two guys are up on that bow end on the front, and they're sitting, their ends kind of sticking up out of the water. The other two guys, they're in the stern, they're at the rear end, and you can see water is leaking into the boat. There's a crack in the boat. Water's coming in, filling it up, it's starting to sink, and they're back there bailing like crazy, trying to get the water out of the boat. And the guys up at the other end are watching them bail and going, we're glad that's not at our end. The reason this kind of concept thinking is so toxic for us as Christians is because even though God chose us when we accepted Him, that we were made into a set apart people to be different from the world, we're still a part of the world. We still live in it. Not only that, we were given a very special thing in our lives that wasn't meant for just me and you. It was meant for every single person out there in the world. Some of them just haven't realized that yet. So if you want to follow along, I'm going to be reading the main verses I have for you are from the book of Ephesians. Ephesians chapter 5. So that's Ephesians 5, and I'm going to be going through verses 8 through 13. The Apostle Paul wrote this letter to the church at Ephesus, and he's saying to them in here, "For you were once darkness, but now you are the light of the Lord. Walk as children of the light, for the fruit of the Spirit is in all goodness, righteousness, and truth, finding out what is acceptable to the Lord. And have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. For it is shameful to even speak of those things which are done by them in secret. But all things that are exposed are made manifest by the light. For whatever makes manifest is light." Now, see, when it comes to us living out there in the world, how many of us who claim now that we are a Christian, you raise your hand, that we could say, hey, I am a servant of Christ, I am a Christian, cannot agree with the point that we were once in darkness? That there was a time where we walked according to the world. Oh, maybe some of you did it for 10 years and woke up, became saved at 10 years old. Some of you, like me, waited till you were near 20 before, wow, it dawned on us that we were in the wrong. Some people even longer. You never know. But now we're different. We have become the light of the Lord because we are walking in it. that's what illuminates our life, illuminated our thought processes. Let us see what we should and shouldn't be doing, how we should and shouldn't have been living, even when we didn't care about how we were living. He says we should walk as children of the light. He doesn't say walk as children of the world. Oh, walk as anybody else in the world does. No, you walk as children of the light. The fruit of the Spirit, or as a change that's growing in our heart, should be making us want to do those things that are laced with goodness, with righteousness. And that's God's righteousness, because our own is likely to go our own way, and God's truth. We should spend our time reading, studying, praying with Him, communicating with Him as we would any other family member, because after all, we're God's adopted children. He's not just there as, say the joke they make about dads and their kids, oh yeah, I'm your ATM machine. You need something, here you go. He's way more than that. He is a integral part of our life that responds and reacts to our lives. It's a mutual relationship. We are there to spend time with him. He spends time with us just as much. So we spend time finding out what and how to do things in a way that's going to be acceptable and pleasing to the Lord. And to do that, we have to take interest in what's going on in the world around us. I mean, many of us would agree, hey, we're on a sinking ship. The way the world is going, it seems to be going further and further down the drain, away from the ways of right and righteousness that we know in God, yet we have to be in it. Just like the guys up on the bow, we're still in that boat. Just because the world down here is sinking and we can look down and we can see it sinking, we don't have that privilege to just, or the right to sit back and go, yep, it's not at our end. Because why? We were once in darkness, but now we see the light, which means what? We need to be sharing the light with the others. He said, have no fellowship with the unfruitful works of darkness, but rather expose them. Now, I want you to see a key there. With the unfruitful works. He didn't say don't associate with the people that do these unfruitful works, because we won't be able to outreach to anybody if we don't talk to that crowd. We have to be able to reach them, but we ourselves must not commit to doing, supporting, or incorporating those works in our life. Rather, we are supposed to stand strong in God's ways, in which doing so will expose those works of darkness for what they are. He said it's even shameful to speak of those things which are done by them in secret. Now, this is, I know I've done it when I'm very unhappy about something going on in the world. And I've sat there and maybe talked with my wife, or maybe talked with one of my best friends about, can you believe that this group is doing such and such? And, this is, we're not supposed to sit there and talk about the things being done by them in secret. If you know it's wrong, then be bold enough to speak out about what is wrong. That's usually what gets most of us as Christians, is there's a fear about, oh, yeah, well, I know that end of the boat's having trouble, and, I've got my salvation here, so I'm good. And, if I try to tell them what the problem is that's causing the leak, they're going to get mad at me. Maybe I might lose my job. I might not get that promotion. People might start talking bad about me, or, even decide that they want to do something against me. I I'm not sure I want to deal with that. They might even call me names. Oh, that would be awful to be called a name. I can't stand that. But we are not called to just complain about what's going on in secret. We are called, just like it says, we are the light. We go out there and we expose what the works of darkness are. We speak the truth. And it says, but all things that are exposed are made manifest. That means made to be shown that they are wrong by what? By the light. For the things making them manifest can only be what? The light. If you're going to just join in with the world and go, well, it's easier than rocking the boat. So I'm going to just kind of, well, they're going to sink. It's not at my end there. They're going to sink, but I'm safe here. And you're going to just ignore it. You're not living to be the light. You're not letting them see it. I mean, let's face it. Here's some words straight from Jesus' own mouth. Mark chapter 16, verse 15. Then he, and this he is Jesus, then he said to them, go into all the world and preach the gospel to all creation. Share the good news with everybody out there. He didn't say you limit it. He didn't say, well, only preach it to the people who look like they'd fit into your church. Only share it with the people in your social class. Only share it with the people of your own skin color. He said, share it with everybody. That means you reach out, you associate. Everybody was designed as being equal in God's sight, and we are called to share the good news, to share the gospel with everyone, irregardless of who they are, what their status is, what is the bad things that they might be involved in or doing. And by all means, if you see a Christian brother or sister who is living worldly, we are most definitely called to help try to set them right and get them back on the track so that they are also shining the best light they can so that we can reach others. That is our whole goal because, see, God loved us enough. He loved us so much that, one, he gave us the privilege of sending Jesus down for us. He didn't have to do that. God would not have lost 1 ounce of righteousness in his being to have judged us for who and what we were and condemned us for the fact that we were being the ignorant fools we were being. He had every right to and would have been a just and honorable judge to have done so. But he sent down Jesus to be a mercy clause and extended his mercy to us and gave it to us because he was gracious enough, because he loved us and knew we were going to mess it all up on our own. And the only way we were going to be able to achieve a state of righteousness was going to be by absolutely nothing that we ourselves could work to do, but simply by faith and by the grace of God that it would be provided to us. If we know that we know this as a Christian, and we see that the other end of the boat, the worldly end of the boat, is sinking, then should not we, the godly end of the boat, be out there trying to help them to see how to plug that leak, or at least to try to get as many others at the other end of the boat where we tip it more out of the water? Would that not be good of us? That's what we were asked to do. I mean, I'm going to give you this. This is Paul speaking right there, the very first chapter when he was addressing the Romans. And the Romans were into their own thing. They were into a lot of power and control, militaristic style, basically tyrannical, government-centered, pagan religious beliefs. And Paul addressing them, very first chapter, addressing them, verses 16 and 17, he says, for I am not ashamed of the gospel, because it is the power of God for salvation to everyone who believes, first to the Jew and also to the Greek. For in it, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith, just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. We know the gospel. We've learned the good news. It is our obligation to go out and share it. And I'm not saying obligation as in, oh man, I'm obligated to pay this bill. No, the obligation is because we have so much joy. It's like our heart is saying, my gosh, I got to share this with everybody else because they are perishing just like I was. I've now seen it and I needed it and I know everybody else needs it. So I really want everybody to know about this great and wonderful God who changed my life. I am not ashamed to share him, no matter what anybody else might say about me. He came first to the Jews because they had a covenant with God. And he provided for them their answer, even if they rejected him, and also to everybody else in the world. Because in the beginning, there was no Jew, there was no group that made a covenant way back at the beginning. Every human being was created as God created it. Boom, he created humans, male and female, created he them. Every being was a special design in God's eyes. All of us were. For in that gospel that we share, the truth, like it says, the righteousness of God is revealed from faith to faith. And I know that sounds confusing, but you can break it down two ways, and both are equally applicable. As we believe by faith, and we live our Christian life out, and God becomes an integral part with us where we're living, our faith grows. So the faith we showed in believing, he reciprocates more than we could imagine, which just makes us trust him more. And then he gives back more and we trust more, and it just keeps on growing from faith to faith. Or you could see it as this: our faith, when we are standing strong, we are living what we believe, we are actually showing the truth, and we are shining the light that exposes the works of darkness so that we can help the people at the other end of the boat, the end that's not ours, so we can help them. Our faith and showing them the way and letting them see, that can lead to them questioning what they believe, questioning the world, and coming eventually to faith in Jesus themselves. From our faith and the example that we're showing of the good news leads to others coming to faith because they get curious because of, wow, they're not behaving like most people in the world would. They didn't act like I thought a worldly person would act, or anybody else I know it was act. Just as it is written, the righteous will live by faith. And you know what? The Bible was still correct when Paul said, there's none righteous, no, not one. Because remember, the righteousness we have is not our righteousness. We're justified by the righteousness of Jesus. He was the one who lived perfect, who never violated any of the laws, and who was able to pay for the debt we couldn't pay. The thing that makes us righteous in God's sight is only Jesus. That's it. It's not us that make ourselves righteous. All we do is our very best to do what we know makes God happy. Because why? Not because we're told, look, I saved you, you're going to go. No, not because he's twisting our arm behind our back, but because we're thankful. Haven't you ever been thankful, grateful, just overwhelmed that somebody gave you such a wonderful gift? He's given you eternity. He has given you an eternity in his presence, an eternity of peace, of love, of joy, of just overwhelmingly great feelings. And he has offered that to you once you have moved on from this world which is far greater than any wonderful gift any human being could ever give another here on earth. Is that not a wonderful reason to get out there and to share the good news, to not sit back and watch the stuff going on in the world and go, yeah, well, I know that, Jesus said that he's the way, the truth, and the life, and, nobody's going to come to the Father except through him, and I believe that, accept that, and, that's why my end of the boat is dry. I know what they're doing and what they're choosing to do, but, that's not my business because, well, I don't have to worry about it. The world is our business. Did Jesus make that clear? Go out and preach it to all creation. Share it. We live by our faith. Our faith helps us find joy in everything around us because we see how God is working in our lives, and because we love what he did for us by justifying us and, accepting us, even when we really, honestly, none of us can say we deserved it. None of us can say we earned it. But he still loved us, and he held out a hand to us when we were out there on the end of the boat trying to bail it out so we didn't sink. If we're on the other side of the boat, shouldn't we share that truth too? To help others find a way? Don't ever look at the world and go, well, at least that's not on my end. The whole world is our end. The whole world is our mission field. And there's nothing that can change another like the gospel, the truth of Jesus illuminating their life and showing them exactly how to fix all those holes. He's just the greatest that way. Go out. Reach out to the other end. Help them find it today. God bless y'all and have a great week.